Hello everyone. Welcome to Community Force webinar. My name is Mehreen Mirza. I'm going to facilitate this webinar and will be answering questions that you may have during the Q&A break. Let us see how many of you have joined. Okay, we still have a few more people to join. So while we wait for everyone else to join, let us show you how you can use this webinar to ask questions and access the handouts. As you can see, there is a panel on the right-hand side of your screen with an arrow. Please use the arrow that is represented in an orange box to collapse or open the panel. Now, all of you have been put on mute to avoid any confusion during this presentation. A copy of today's presentation is also available in the handout section. Please click on the PDF copy by clicking on the title of the handout as shown here. This handout contains the links to individual help guides, knowledge-based articles, training videos, etc. For each of the topics that we are going to cover today. You can also use the question area to type in your questions and click on send or enter. We will receive your questions and answer them by typing them in or verbally during the Q&A break. If we miss answering any of your questions, we will send you the response via email after this webinar. Let's see how many of you have joined. Okay, and we should get started now. So, since most of you have joined, let us start with a brief of this training webinar. The topic for today is Grant Users Webinar, Managing the Grant Applicants on the 11.0 version. We have with us Christine Smith, who will be our trainer for today and will go over all the relevant areas under this topic. The duration of this webinar is 1 hour. Now I will pass over the mic to Christine to start the training. All yours, Christine. Thank you, everyone.
And thank you very much, Maureen, for that introduction. So let's go ahead and get started with the session for today. So today's session, we're going to be primarily focusing on users of our grant platform today. And so we're going to be talking about those key functionalities that can help you in applying when you're having your organizations apply, helping you be able to maintain the different employees across that organization. And then we're also going to talk about some of the key functionalities that are beneficial for building and managing your application, some little key functionalities that we have that are specifically for grant users. So we'll kind of go over those today as well. So who's going to benefit from this webinar? Well, of course, if you're a grant user, you're going to be benefiting from this. And then also if you're an administrator, responsible for monitoring applicants as they're applying, if you're the one responsible for communicating with those applicants, this will be of benefit to you as well. And so the topics we're going to cover today are manage members. So that's how you're going to have the organizations tied together. All the members of that organization will be linked through manage members. So we'll talk about how to get that set up for your organizations, and then how your primary user of an organization can use manage members. And then we'll talk about how to change ownerships of applications, because we know people come and go from organizations. So if someone was to leave in the middle of an application process, how do you change that application to another user of that organization? Then we'll take a quick break. And once we take that break, Maureen will answer the questions that you have given her. And then after that break, we'll continue on with the agency profile. We'll talk about what that is, and then benefits of using some of the specific question types like the program name, requested amount, budget amount. How do you get those to show in your award screen? So we'll talk about those as well. So the first topic, of course, is manage members. So manage members is a feature that's for our grant platform, and it allows you to manage all the users within an organization. It allows you to tie those users to the same organization so they're all linked together, and then they can have primary users on their site. And then those primary users have access to all the applications from all the members of their organization. So if I'm a primary user of an organization, I have the ability to see all the applications of all the other members of my organization as well. And then also the primary user has the ability to keep the agency profile up to date. So we'll talk about that later on in today's session, but that is a key functionality of the primary user, as well as the primary user has the ability to create user accounts for members of their organization. So let's go ahead and get to the site here and get moving on our presentation today. And it looks like I got kicked out, so just bear with me here. And for some reason, we cannot get into the site, Maureen.
A second, Christine, let me check this at my end too. Just give me a second.
I was in it just a second ago.
Yeah. Yeah, it seems to be working fine, Christine. Can you try it on another browser probably, or another window? It's working at my end.
There we go.
Okay,
Okay, sorry about that, everyone. Okay, so we're at the site now, and I'm going to go ahead and log into the site because the first thing I want to talk about is, of course, once an organization already has applicants logged in and accounts created, they won't be able to tie those individuals to their organization. They don't have access to search the site and then tie those individuals to their organization. That's something you will have to do on the back end to initially get them established. So how do you do that as an admin? How do you tie applicants to the same organization? Because every time someone creates an account with an organization, Community Force doesn't know if that's the same organization or a different organization, so it creates a new organization in the system. So you're going to have to take all of those profiles and link them to the same organization. And so you're going to log in as your admin with your admin account, and you're going to go to the administration dashboard. And so this is something a global administrator would have to do. And then once you get to the administration dashboard, you would want to go to set up users. So I open up the menu to set up users. And then once you're in setup users, you'll be able to see the users that are out there. And so your best bet is to search, and I usually don't search on the full name. So like if I was looking for Community Force and all the applicants that are out there for Community Force, I'm going to do a search, and I'm more than likely just going to put in not Community Force Inc., but just maybe the first portion of that name, and then search on that so that I get everyone. In case there's a typo or someone enters it different, you can kind of see here I've got a couple of different types of community forces. And so I can kind of see, okay, all these individuals, who are the ones I want to link together? So once you determine who you want to link together, it's just a matter of going in on your key person, your first individual that you want to link all the organization profiles to, and you're going to click the edit on that individual. And then you're just going to grab their organization name here. So I've got this name, Community Force Inc., and I'm just going to Control C, and you can see as soon as I highlighted it, see how it gave me a drop down. So right now I only have one Community Force Inc., so that tells me everybody's tied together. But if they're not, everybody's not tied together, you could have 3 Community Force Incs. So you want to make sure, and when you're doing this, like when I highlight it, I'm always going to pick the one in the very first one in that list, so that I know everybody's number 1 on the list. And so I'm just going to highlight this. I'm going to Control C, and then I'm just going to get out of here because now I've got my organization I want. And then I'm just going to go to the ones that I need to tie together. You're going to have to do this on everybody initially until there's only one Community Force Inc., so that everybody's tied together. But I see, like, here's one. She's got a little bit different name, so I'm going to go look at her. I'm going to go ahead and add Community Force Inc. to her. Okay. And there's that first one. I'm going to select it. And then, of course, I have on mine, I have to activate a cell phone because we're using that new functionality to be able to send SMS text messages. So I do have to do that on mine. I'm going to go ahead and hit save and exit. And then now you're going to see here that now she has that Community Force Inc., and she'll be tied to Community Force. When we go into the manage members from the user perspective, you'll be able to see that they're in there. Now, once you've got everybody set up, then the primary users of that organization will be able to go in and see all the users of their organization. So how do they do that? So let's just go now from the user's perspective. So I'm going to log out here. And I'm going to log back in as the user. And now I'm logged in as the user with my user login. And if I come up here to where it says Welcome Test Applicant, and I click the drop down, I'm going to see a functionality called Manage Members. So here in Manage Members, everyone that is linked to my organization, so either you had to link them initially, or if I'm the first person ever coming in, if you're a new client, you could have your organizations tell them if they have other users, then it would be beneficial for them to go in and create user accounts for all their users. So once all those user accounts are created, then you can come here, you can see all the users that are tied to that organization. And once those users are tied to this organization, they will show here in the listing. And then here you can also see they can have certain functionalities if they were to select a user here and then come over here and hit choose action. You can see they have some functionalities they can do with those users. They can make them inactive. They can delete a user. So this is something you might want to give them caution. If they delete someone, they're going to delete all their applications as well. So always, if you're going to use this functionality, be very clear with your organizations that they don't want to delete someone when they leave an organization, because if they delete that person, they're going to lose their applications that they've done as well. So instead of deleting a user, then they're going to want to make them active or inactive. If someone leaves, make them inactive. And then once they're inactive, they won't be able to log in and access any data. They don't want to delete it. Some may ask, well, if they don't want to delete it, why do you have the delete there? Well, that's because they can create users. So say they're creating a user and they realize, oh, I didn't want to create that user. I created the wrong person. How do you get rid of them? They have to be able to delete. You don't want them calling you and saying, hey, I put this person in by accident. Can you delete it? We've given them the ability to do that, so they're not constantly contacting you for those errors. So of course, here you can see when they go to create a user, I'm the primary member, I'm creating a user, it automatically picks up the organization. So I don't have to worry about contacting you, the admin of the site, and saying, hey, I just created a new user, can you tie him to my organization? The system automatically knows you're going in on that organization. Anybody you create under your profile is going to go in the same organization as you, the user. And then you just create their account like you would normally. Create an account, they can assign the password, they can even have that authentication email go out if you're using that. So you can see the ability they have here, so they can create those user accounts. They also can determine if they want other members of that organization to be primary users. So they have the ability here, they can see who's the primary user. If I want other individuals in my organization to see each other's applications, I can make them a primary user as well. Or I can determine if I don't want to make them a primary user. If you don't want them to be a primary user, then you just select over here, go to the choose action and mark them as primary or not as primary. So this is where they control. They can also reset their users' passwords. So if say one of their users can't get in, they can go to their key admin of their organization, their primary user, and say, hey, I need my password reset. Can you do that? So that's how they can manage members of their own organization. Okay. So that the other thing that a primary user has the ability to do is our next functionality we want to discuss, and that's changing ownership. So what is changing ownership? So changing ownership is when someone in an organization starts an application and maybe that person leaves the organization. And so the primary user then can go in and they would want to deactivate that account. They would want to mark them inactive. And then two, they would want to create a new user account for the new individual if they have a new individual. Otherwise, they'd want to make sure that the individual they want to reassign does have a user account. If they don't, they need to create one. And then once that's been done, then they can change the ownership of that application. So that's if it's not the primary user. So let's say the primary user, maybe your director, is the one who's your primary user and they've left the organization. In that scenario, you would need to contact the admin of the site. The organization would have to contact the admin, which would be you, and let you know that they've changed primary users and that that person's no longer with the organization. And then you would have to create an account for the new individual and tie it to the organization on the back end. Then once you did that, you would notify that individual. You've now got them as a primary user. They can go in and start changing the ownership of the applications. You wouldn't need to do that. You could do it for them. I'll show you how to do that. But more than likely, you might want to put that back on them to go in and change the ownership so that they can access those applications. So how do you do that? Well, if I'm a user of the site, I'm the actual applicant, and I'm the primary user, then I'm here in my manage members as the primary user. And let's say I want to change, let's see, who do I want to do? This individual here. So maybe I want to make them inactive and then I want to give their application to another individual. So how do I do that? How do I get to their applications? Once I'm here, where's their application? How do I see that? So to see the applications, you do go back to your home screen. And then once you're on your home screen, they would go to My Applications. Remember, you're the applicant. This isn't how you as the admin does this. This is how the applicant does this. So they go to My Applications. And if they're the primary user, they're going to see all of the applications. You can see I've got 3 pages of applications. I'm this primary user. I see all of these applications. So in order to know who has ownership of that application, I do need to, one, more than likely they're going to have, maybe you're the program name activated where you'll be able to see by program. And then they can go over here and they can click on this ownership icon over here, click on that, and they'll be able to see who started the application. And if there's been any ownership history, they'll be able to see that as well. So let me see if I can find one here real quick. Let me go down to the next one. Okay, so this next one here is that Suhail. That's the individual that's left. So I want to change ownership. So all I need to do to change ownership is just select here. And then as soon as I hit select, it's going to give me the list of individuals that are users of the site that I can change this to. And so I'm just going to go ahead and give it to, let me see, let's change ownership to Sarah. We'll give it to Sarah. Okay. And then I hit save and exit and click OK. And then when I go back to my applications, if I go to that second one here, it'll now show that it was started here. It shows it now assigned to Sarah. So you can see here. Okay, so we'll just hit save and exit. So now you can see that assignment. So that's how the primary user does it. Okay. Now, how do you as an admin? So maybe they call you and say, hey, our primary user, can you please go in and change ownership of that application? You as the admin have the ability to do that. So let me just log out here. Go to log out. I'm going to log in as an admin. Okay, so I'm logged in as an admin. And so I'm going to go to that actual application form, click on it, and go to the Manage Applicants. And once I'm in the Manage Applicants, I can see the applications. I can see who the individuals are. Since I'm working with Community Force, maybe I want to filter. So let me just filter here real quick. And then look for my community group of Community Force users. So here they are. There's that one I switched ownership on. So maybe I want to switch. Maybe I don't want to give it to Sarah. I want to give it to somebody else. We can just come right here. See this icon? This is what you as the admin you'll see. And then this is where you would select that. And then here you can see there it's assigned to Sarah. And so I can just come here. Maybe I want to give it to Suhail. I can hit save and exit, click OK. And now you can see he's got the application now. Okay, so that's where you would do that, is through the view application ownership, and then you can change that ownership. Okay, so that is where we're going to take a quick pause here. And once we pause, we'll go ahead and look at any questions and see what questions you have, and I'll turn the mic over to Maureen so she can answer them.
Sorry, everyone. I was on mute. Okay, we have a few questions. One of the questions is how many primary users are allowed in the system under an organization? So that is unlimited. That completely depends upon the first primary user of an organization or anyone who is creating their own account under that organization name. So there's no limit to how many primary members can be. But as Christine has given that example of an executive director of an organization, if he wants to revoke that access, he can remove these users as primary users as well from his or her manage applicant screen, manage member screen. Now we have a few other questions. Can the person linked to the organization see all applications or just the current year applications? Now the answer to you, Anna, is that only the primary user of an organization can see all the applications under his or her organization name, and it can be past as well as the current ones. So let's just say I am the primary user of an organization, and Christine has worked on last year's application, and then she is working on the current year's application. I can see both. So all applications that are running under my organization name, me being a primary user, can see all of those applications. Does the system prompt? Is there a warning before we delete someone from the system? Absolutely, yes. The system is going to give you a prompt on your screen. Please do not ignore the prompt and say, okay. Read the prompt, because what happens is if you delete a record from the system, like an applicant record, the data associated with this user will also be lost. Read the prompt that you see on your screen and then go ahead and click OK. All right. I think I have covered all the questions, Christine. Let me just check. No, the other questions are related to the other part.
Okay, perfect. Perfect. Okay, very good. So now let's talk about the agency profile. So what is agency profile? So agency profile is a means that you can create a profile setup. And this is based off of the master template. So in order to have an agency profile, you do have to have a master template on your site. And it allows the organization to have key fields that are identifying to that organization that a primary user can go in and update. And when they update that agency profile, that will update all of the active applications that are currently pending submission, that have not been submitted, and that are in applications that the due date has not passed. So that primary user can go in, say maybe they changed their website. They can go in on their profile, agency profile, change the website, hit save, and once they hit save, it'll make that change in all of those active applications that are still pending out there. So how do you create an agency profile? So an agency profile is something that usually you'll want to do at the very beginning before you go live. But if you haven't yet, the key, of course, is you do need a master template. So let me just go to the site and just so I can explain to you what that master template is. So the master template is a template that carries all the fields in all your application forms. So of course I have a master template, and how do you know if it's a master template or not? More than likely it doesn't have an application tied to it or applicants, but in the administration dashboard here you will see where it says, where's my set master template? Right here, set master application template. So that master template, again, like I said, has every field in your application form. And then right here, it just tells me current master application is called master template. So that tells me that the master template application is the master template. So any agency profile that I build, I have to use fields from this master template. And the XML name, of course, is in that master template. And those fields have to be present in the other application forms that are built, and it has to be the same XML name that is in the master template in order for the agency profile to have the data flow down. Okay, so that's the first thing with the agency profile setup. The second step with the agency profile setup is here you're going to see a manage applicant agency profile. If this is activated, if you don't have this activated on your site, you can always ask for a support ticket to get this activated. But this manage applicant agency profile, when I click on it, you'll see it then allows me to map the fields that I want to create in my agency profile. It's going to map them to that master template. So only certain fields are allowed when creating an agency profile, mainly text fields. You can have phone number, numeric fields. You does not allow for drop downs or checkbox fields, or any multiple choice type question fields will not be able to be put into an agency profile. When you're creating an agency profile, you want to make sure that all of these fields are universal, meaning it has to be the same across all of the users of that account. So of course, it's mainly going to be things like the address or an EIN or their phone number or their web address, legal name, things like that. Those are the fields that you're going to want to put in an agency profile. Fields that aren't going to change depending on the user. It's all universal, basically mainly fields that are going to be about that organization. Now, another word of caution is some of you maybe you have a question, do you have a 501c3? And then if it says yes, then they get the question for the 501c3. So those you wouldn't want to, if you have logic like that, you might not want to use those because of the fact that you don't have the dependent question in here. So since that dependent question isn't here, then it can't find the other question. It's not going to be showing for them. So how do you create the profile itself? You can see all you have to do is just come down here and activate the field that you want it to be, and then enter the display name. The display name is what the user is going to be seeing. It tells them what to put in there. And then if you're not sure if you can have a question or not, like I said, it's in the master template. You're going to hit this drop down and you're going to look for the question you want to put in there. And then you're going to select that question. And like I said, make sure you select a question that is universal. That's going to be something that's going to change across the board on all applicants. Okay, so like agency contact name, I probably, if it's an agency contact and it's universal across everyone, I might want to add that. But if it's just for a specific application, then I probably don't want to add that. So those are the kind of things you want to kind of think of when you're adding those fields. So then you can select the field, and then I'm just going to grab that one real quick. And then once you select it, then you just give it the name. But one thing you do want to make sure of, and you can have 50 questions you can put into an agency profile. But whenever you create it, you do want to make sure to put this checkbox, and then you want to make sure to hit save and exit when you're done, or just save. Maybe you want to keep saving as you're going along. And then once you hit save, that'll save that data. Now, once an agency profile has been created, how do they update it? Where do they see that agency profile? When they create their user account, they're not seeing it when they create the account. So where is that agency profile located? So I'm going to log in, and this is where if you activate an agency profile, I'm going to add it, log in as an applicant here. And so here, where it says welcome, if I hit the drop down here, they can go into view edit profile here. And then this is where they're going to see those fields. Once they've created their account, they come in here, they go to view edit profile. This is where they're going to see those fields here that you've added. And then, of course, when they create their profile and hit save, any applications they've started, as well as any users that are linked to their organization that have applications started that are still pending and have not been submitted, and that due date on that application is still active, it'll push that data down to their application as well. So let me just kind of show you how that works. So here I am, I'm the user of this account. I'm the primary user. It's got to be the primary user. It can't just be anyone. And so I'm just going to put TESTDBA, and I'm going to hit save and exit. Okay. Now I'm going to go to my applications. And so any application I have started that is not submitted, so like this one here, I can open up this application, no matter who it is. Open up the area where that field was located. And you can see here it automatically populates it for them. So all of those applications that are pending, it's going to populate it with that specific data. Now, you may have someone go in and change that agency profile, and then they may go in, let's say they go in and they start an application. So I'm just going to go here and start a new application. Apply for self. I want you to see this because they may call you with this scenario. So they started the application and they're like, none of the fields are populated. Well, that's because it doesn't automatically do it, because this save on that profile only looks at started application. So of course, when they created that profile, it hadn't started the application yet. So all they need to do is once they open up their application is just jump back up here, go to the view edit profile, hit the save and exit. And then when they go back to their application, see if I can figure out which one this is. It's probably going to be the first one. Focus go on this one. Now you'll see here, it now has that data populated, and now it shows it started and that data has been populated. So that's how they would do that. So that is agency profile and how that functions. So that's a nice little feature that helps the agency so that they can keep their data up to date. And so then the next thing I want to talk about is just some of the key question types that we use for our grant users and how they're created. And if we created the application for you. You may know that that functionality is there, but you're maybe not familiar with how it was set up. So the first one is program name. So program name is a field, it's a text field. And so if a program name field is beneficial when you have organizations applying for multiple programs and they're creating a separate application for each program, then when they create that application, you see that user multiple times. So maybe I have community force 3 times. I have a program name field that they can populate so that I can keep track of what's the different programs. So I allow them to apply multiple times as long as it's different programs. So then I can keep track of when I'm maintaining the back end, I can see, okay, this is community force and this is their program X, or community force and program A, and so forth. So that program name helps you keep track of which program you're working with and what's the name of the program that you're wanting to award them. And so even if you don't have multiple applicants within an organization, you just have one program per application and that's it. The program name is beneficial because that's what you're wanting to know. What's the name of the program that they're applying for? So that program name field is very beneficial in that way. So to use a program name field, whoops, I want to go to the application site here, log in as the admin. So I'm going to log out as the applicant. And I'm going to log in. And so the first thing you would have to do in order to use a program name is activate the field on the administration dashboard site here. So I'm in administration and I'm going to site settings. And in site settings is a toggle that you need to turn the program name on if it's not on already. More than likely, if you're a grant user, we've done this for you when we built the application. We've activated this for you. Here you're going to see a toggle, enable program name. As soon as that says yes, that will create the ability to have a program name question. And then also that program name column will show in the manage applicants. So where does it show? If I go home, if I was an applicant, I see it as an applicant. I have a column that says program name. But then also you as the admin, when you're looking at your applicants, I'm just going to go in here real quick. When you're looking at your applicants from the back end, you have this column program name. So 1, you want to activate it in the administration site settings. And then 2, when the application is built in application settings, in the section that application is built, we actually have a question type. And that question type is called program name. So when we build that question, instead of choosing a text field to create that question, and this is a text field only response to this specific question when it's built, but when we build it, you can see for question type, we actually choose that question type program name. And then that tells the system this question, when it's answered, is the program name, and it's to go into that program name column. So that's how it's built. That's the functionality of it. It helps you be able to monitor and be able to see things by program name, not only organization, not only the individual logged in from that organization, but you can also see the program that they are applying for. Okay. Now the next 2 fields that are very useful for our grant users are 2 fields in the award screen that you may have seen. You see when you're awarding, you can see the amount they're requesting as well as the budget amount. How do those get populated? What are those? So let's go back to the site. And if I go to my award screen, and I'll go into the one fund here because it's easier to access. You're going to notice when you're awarding, you see a requested field and a budget field, and you see figures in those. Those are the figures that the applicant has answered. They had the question that the system knew that question, when it was answered, was to be used for the requested column. And then the same with the budget. The system knew that specific question is to be used for the budget column. So you can see what they're asking for and what they're budgeting for that specific project. So you're only allowed to tie, one question for the requested, and then you have another question for the budget, and then you can only add one of those to do that. But how does the system know? There's a specific way you have to create those questions in order for the system to know that that's the field that's for this column and so forth. So what we do is when we build that question, and let's see, I think it's in this field, this section here. We go back down. It's not a specific question type, it's a specific XML. And in that XML, you're going to see here, see it says budget total and amount requested. It has to be formatted that specific way, and the system knows when it sees that XML in the application form, that's the two questions that are to be populated for those specific columns. So it's budget total and amount requested. And then we also have that here in this handout here. It actually gives those as well, amount requested, budget total. And so that's how the system knows. Okay, so that's it for that as well. So let's see if we have any more questions about that, Maureen. And then we'll close out the session for today after you answer the questions. So I'll turn it back over to you, Maureen. Thank you.
Thank you, Christine. Okay, there is a question, and this one is a good one. If I don't have any questions in the drop-down list, does it mean I don't have a master template? Yes. You need to set up one of your applications as your master template. Ideally, you need to set up an application as a master template that contains the commonly asked questions. Let's say you have multiple applications in your system, and you have those basic questions that you ask from your applicants every single time on each of your application. Pick an application and set it up as a master. Christine is showing that to us from where we can set up the application as a master template from administration. The left-hand panel, set up master application, click on that. Pick the application that has the most commonly asked questions, and then you can set it up. Once you have that set up, you should be able to see the questions while you're setting up your agency profile. Okay, thank you so much, Christine. Now, and I cannot access the agency profile. Well, it is possible that the agency profile has not yet been activated on your site. As mentioned by Christine earlier, you need to have the agency profile activated first. And if you don't see that option on your site under administration, then make sure that you open a ticket with us on Zendesk. Let our support team know that manage applicant agency profile. So you need to make sure that you open a ticket with us on Zendesk and request us to activate the agency profile. Once that is activated, you can go ahead and add the questions to the agency profile. All right. I do not. Okay, just a second. I have other questions. Okay. Can they just enter these answers without updating the agency profile? Well, ideally, yes, your applicants are entering these answers in your application. The question here is, before I proceed with the answer, can the applicants just enter the answers without updating or creating the agency profile? What you see in the agency profile are questions that are appearing from your application. Okay, but without these questions that you add to the agency profile, you have some very basic information of your applicant, their name, the email address, the organization name, just some basic information. Now, if you want every single time the applicant to enter this information on multiple of their applications, it's a good idea to create an agency profile, because you have the same questions. The applicant has to answer these questions. Once you set up your agency profile, applicant answers those questions once under agency profile, and these answers get populated every single time they start a new application. Okay. All right. We have another question, I think. How do we customize the columns we want to see on the manage applicants dashboard by adding or removing existing columns? Okay, Lisa, those columns cannot be customized on your manage application screen or the manage applicant screen. But yes, if you want to add the program name field, as Christine has mentioned, you need to activate the program name field from the site settings, administration site settings screen. and make sure that there is a question in the system on your application. There is a question marked as a program name field. And once that is done, every single time your applicants enter the answers on the program name field, the answers will populate under the Manage Application screen as well. I hope I have answered your question, Lisa. Okay, thank you so much. I think that's it, Christine. I've answered all the questions. The rest I've typed them in.
Very good. Thank you so much, Maureen.
Thank
And
you.
so let's see here. I think that's the end of our session for today. So of course, make sure you get the handout, because the handout has links to the resources of the items of regarding some of the things we're talking about today, some elements as to how to really go in the back end and set this up. Because of course, with the session, we don't have a whole lot of time to go into all the details. So of course, those are out there. So please make sure you get a copy of the handout so you can get those. And then of course, the 11.0 functionalities, we do include that at the end of the handout as well. So that if you weren't in the training that talked about some of the new functionalities with 11.0, you'll be able to click here to be able to get more information on them. So as always, we thank you all for attending today's session. And of course, if you have any questions whatsoever in regards to your processes, our grant users, every grant user maybe has a different process, and you want to have a maybe a more in-depth conversation about maybe some of the challenges you're having, always feel free to enter a support ticket into Zendesk and ask for one of our client support specialists to reach out to you so that we can maybe do a process review with you and talk about your processes and how you can better utilize this system. Maybe some things that, that maybe if you've been using it for several years, maybe some little helpful hints of some items that maybe have come down the pipe in regards to making things easier for our grant users that you might not be aware of. Please reach out to our process review specialist and we can help you with that. So again, thank you everyone for your time. And I hope everyone has a wonderful week, and we'll go ahead and close the session for today. Thank you so much.